Chapter 10, Tenure, Dismissal, and Due Process. The tenure contract is designed primarily to provide a measure of security for teachers and to ensure that they are protected from arbitrary and capricious treatment by school authorities. Any teacher who earns tenure or continuing service status also acquires a property right or a legitimate claim to the teaching position. Once a property right is acquired, the teacher may only be dismissed for cause. Full due process provisions must be applied. In a number of states, tenure may only be attained after the teacher has successfully completed 3 successive years during the probationary period and receives an offer for reemployment for the succeeding year. The probationary period is one in which the non-tenured teacher is seeking tenure. During the probationary period, a teacher may be non-renewed at the end of the contract year without cause or dismissed during the year with cause. In the case of the latter, the teacher must be afforded full due process rights. The primary reason due process does not apply to probationary status centers around a limited property interest. During the probationary period, the teacher is typically offered a 1-year contract, which is renewable each year if the school board elects to do so. The probationary teacher then only has a property right for the duration of the 1-year contract. When the contract period ends each year, the teacher loses the inherent property because both the teacher and the district have met contractual obligations to each other. Due process and cause are necessary only if there is evidence that a property interest continues to exist. A property interest does not exist if no legal contract is in force. Tenure laws include grounds for dismissal in virtually all states. While there are variations among states, these grounds normally include incompetency, insubordination, immorality, neglect of duty, justifiable decrease in the number of teaching positions, or financial exigency, and a statement indicating other good or just cause. One of the more frequently used grounds for dismissal involves charges of incompetency. Most commonly, incompetency refers to inefficiency, a lack of skill, inadequate knowledge of subject matter, inability or unwillingness to teach the curricula, failure to work effectively with colleagues and parents, failure to maintain discipline, mismanagement of the classroom, and attitudinal deficiencies. Insubordination is generally viewed as the willful failure or inability to obey a reasonable and valid administrative directive. In most cases, there is discernible pattern in the teacher's behavior which reveals that the teacher has been insubordinate. However, there are other instances in which one serious violation may form the basis for charges of insubordination. Teacher misconduct regarding school issues must be thoroughly investigated and documented. When documentation is completed, the teacher should be provided an opportunity to respond in writing or refute any information associated with the alleged misconduct. Sufficient time must be provided the teacher to Teacher misconduct regarding school issues must be thoroughly investigated and documented. When documentation is completed, the teacher should be provided an opportunity to respond in writing or refute any information associated with the alleged misconduct. Sufficient time must be provided to the teacher to remedy the behavior based on the nature of the misconduct. The teacher should subsequently remedy the undesirable behavior. Immorality is cited in relevant state statutes as grounds for dismissal and involves conduct that violates the ethics of a particular community. Some state laws refer to immorality as unfitness to teach or behavior which sets a poor example for students and violates moral integrity. Charges of criminal activity committed by public school teachers will normally result in dismissal based on general unfitness, immorality, and unprofessional conduct. Depending on the severity and the specifics of the criminal act, revocation of the teaching certificate also may be appropriate, especially in the case where a conviction occurs. In a number of states, conviction of felony or crime of moral turpitude will form defensible grounds for the revocation of the teacher's certificate. In other instances, a series of convictions for misdemeanors may also prove sufficient to remove a teacher from an employment position by revocation of the teaching certificate. Financial exigency occurs when the district faces a bona fide reduction in its budget, which results in abolishing certain employment positions. Positions may also be abolished when the district encounters reductions in student enrollment. Neglect of duty occurs when a teacher fails to execute assigned duties. Neglect may be intentional or unintentional based on ineffective performance. The courts will generally support districts that demonstrate the need to reduce their teaching force, commonly called reduction in force, where there is evidence that a legitimate financial problem exists and substantive and procedural due process is provided. Just cause is designed to provide the district broader latitude in dismissing teachers for causes not specifically identified in state statutes. It is not designed to allow the district to dismiss a teacher for personal, political, arbitrary, or capricious reasons. Collective bargaining has grown in popularity and appeal in public education. Although it has always provoked controversy, many educators view collective bargaining as a mechanism to achieve a greater role in management and operation of public schools. Since many of the issues involving collective bargaining center around rights of employees, terms and conditions of employment, its very nature sometimes evokes conflict and adversarial relationships between school boards and union representatives. Most states currently permit some form of bargaining between teachers and school boards. These agreements may vary from required bargaining to some form of meet and confer provision. Harassment is considered to be a form of sex discrimination. It can manifest itself in many forms, from verbal statements, gestures, or overt behavior. The victim, as well as the harasser, may be a male or a female, not necessarily of the opposite sex. More serious levels may involve sexual coercion or unwanted physical relations. This type behavior, quid pro quo, is commonly associated with superior-subordinate relationships in which the victim, for fear of reprisal, will unwillingly participate.